Today we're going to go over some of the reasons and features of the pyramid. Well, sorry. We're not going to talk about the Giza Pyramid anymore. We're talking about my model, which looks a lot like the Giza Pyramid. The reason that they find, which you can go to pressure.greatgizapyramid.com, the room behind the structure we see in this image, there's a void back there that they found. It's documented, you don't have to make it up, is to allow when the gases are escaping out of that area, okay, the gases are forced into that back room where they then have to build up pressure to force their way out, where the gases actually escape out of the conduit you see right here. Not this. That's the inlet for the liquid. And it does that to create a pressure bubble across this entire structure of how much pressure there is before it escapes. We're working with a very fine, if you look at that, that's only about 6 to 8 inches of deviation across the entire structure of how much pressure there is before it escapes, and at what level the water comes in, to equal out. So they have created an entire eye. My model works on a very fine line of the pressure within the system. Get that? But that pressure is abnormally higher than the ambient atmospheric pressure because it has to push down that like 6 inches to bubble out from under the water level, which I believe within the pool on the outside of the pyramid structure is maintained as I read it up here. Within the entire structure, the pressure is within that variance, that little variance, that tiny little bubble of variance, such that we are going to have the liquids within the model be under pressure, while the gas itself within the model is not. And the reason the gases are not, at least the gases in this structure and this structure are not, the gases in here are definitely, and I am on the fence about the gases in here because, well, that's I don't completely understand the whole hydraulics, and this is where your help, your gray matter, will help me understand exactly what's occurring in there. But let me get to my model. So we maintain a pressure within the entire system and within the liquid. Up here, because within my system, and you, by now, if you're watching this, I hope you've seen some of my other videos, we are taking the liquid within the lower system here and breaking it into its two respective gases. The liquid in this case is water, which normally H2O, which I argue it's H2O, but every 1 in 6,800 molecules by average is D2O. And then we can even argue about the fallacies in that, because really this is playing with these fallacies. So let's get into it. So the oxygen primarily bubbles out. It comes up across the roof line there, does some magic down there, and as it bubbles out, it creates a little water pressure hammer which echoes down that tail. And the way the tail is made like a caterpillar, it's doing stuff having to do with cavitation. But in my model, I really can't get into that much detail because I don't have that scale and that math. And anyway, we're just going to work with it bubbling out. I'm going to make it do a little water hammer thing that'll make John Cadman happy, okay? Within the lower structure, to be honest with you, when you get into it, there's a second section where as the system comes to play, we're actually going to get heavy water, which is deuterium-laced water. Deuterium-laced water, you like that word? And that heavy water is going to fill until it saturates the floor line there. And as it comes up, it's going to need to release some of its energy. It's going to do that in the way of venting off some hydrogen, which will come up into that one area in the pre-subterranean chamber. Now that is going to work with some math to balance out the pressure, which will make that little water hammer go down. This is going to work like a, not really a capacitor, more like a dampening thing to more focus that water hammer. But we will get into that when we really get deep into it. But for right now, we're just going to play with, there's a water hammer that goes through, and we're going to maybe make it do a little pop thing, create a bubble or something through cavitation, just to show that it's conceivably within the realm of possibility, because nature will do what nature will do, and you can't really fool Mother Nature. And up here, because the pit there and the pit here, where we're going to have the cathode and the anode, this side is going to bubble out hydrogen. Now we're going to maintain the water level in there just like they did, because the area out here, which you can get to by going to karen.greatgazepyramid.com and look inside that room is created in it's a room. It's a building to itself. Karen she controls the pressure within here. You have the room at ground level over here. We have a vent that comes out, located here on the north side, comes out and adds to the flow, which we will get into, which comes down and spills down into the Sphinx area. That is part of the flow of the system. The whole system is flowing this way. This is a containment vessel, but the system is flowing this way. Mother Nature is coming down that way, and we are playing to trap the heavy water, the deuterium I spoke of, within the system. The koi ponds located over here, the road today runs down and has that circle. The koi ponds located there and there are such that they pool. I guess we can do this. The heavy water, which has that creep factor, will pool the heavy water and then run it down into another pool. But the way it flows, because they have a flow in those bridges, this whole thing is saturated. But within that, the heavy water will jump to the deeper area, fill up and pool back, but it'll jump and pool back. And this is all done at the exact same height as the spillway over there that pools the liquid within here that's coming down, spills out, pools within there. Everything is at the same elevation. They are all playing with that. That's at this elevation that I spoke of right there. Okay? The water's within here, under pressure because of how it is, spill into this room where they are brought in, still maintained under pressure, but this amplifies it, because just as this bleeds oxygen and bubbles out, this one is also bleeding. I believe that it goes back and forth between the gases based on which way Mother Nature is flowing electricity. Okay, it's Mother Nature that controls this, not me or them. It's Mother Nature. But at some point, it'll be venting oxygen, and because of the way nature expects it to bubble up to the surface, but we have it trapped, this will create pressure on the surface, like hydraulics, which will raise the ambient water pressure tension higher. But when it raises it within this pool, because hydraulics, it echoes the system, right? When it raises it within the pool, it's still spilling off over here, like I was saying, and then running down. It's this section here is connected to ground, Mother Earth, through the area they like to call the Osiris shaft. So it is trying to, the Mother Nature's energy is trying to vent out to get to the ground, the only place upon the entire plateau where there is still water, because it goes down below the water table to this day. That is ground, that is earth ground. This pool is maintained. You also notice that where the waterfall is over by the Sphinx, the spillway that comes down to go to the echo-free room over here, I call that the Tuapri room because he's so chill. Okay, that comes off where, if you look at the two sides of it, the waterfall is spilling here, but the water comes off of the other one at this elevation and then comes down the channel and then spills in, bleeds off. Because of the way that it's constructed, you can look at it today. It comes up and then joins the channel and back into the Nile. But, and the area in front of the Sphinx has a couple of little waterfalls to maintain it and dampen it, whatever. Those are all designed. I mean, I can't speak too much for down here, but I think it's still quarantining and capturing some of the heavy water. The way it's shaped, it still looks like it's capturing something. But, you know, I'm really, my focus was up here. So we'll get into that when we really fine tune this. But, so within this, like I said, in this, you just put an aerator for right now to bubble up air into there. Eventually we can put a condenser, and then even as time goes on, I want to try to build this so that nature itself does the work, like a the wheel that you spin, Windhurst generator. I want to let nature show what nature has the ability to do. But for right now, we can stimulate it by just putting an aerator, putting pressure on here. But I think we have to actually put either hydrogen and or oxygen gas as the pressure, and we'll work on the exact details as to which one and when, because the surface tension it's creating is dependent upon what the meniscus feels, and that yields what is actually the when water condenses and then drips. That occurs within this structure here. This structure is actually going to be piercing above the water level we spoke of, which is outside the structure, because it's maintained by the waterfall on that side, that little area where it's like comes up 10 inches and then there's 20 so feet of width, and then it goes up another 6 inches. There's waterfall there, and that will actually be the cutoff to allow escapage of air. It just, you look at it and it speaks for itself. It will maintain a pool within that area that is 10 to, depending on where you are, 10 inches to like 2 feet deep. Not super deep, but you know, just a puddle. But that's enough with a constantly flowing inlet of water that comes in the conduits over there on the side, that the structure is capturing. It captures in through this conduit here to bring into the area under pressure the glory isotope of the liquid water we are looking for. Brings it down there, cracks it, refining it. By the way, it keeps cracking it, adding pressure, fine-tuning it. They are creating a situation within here where there is the perfect pressure of the water that I spoke of. They already picked the pressure of the water, but this amplifies a little bit more. This more fine-tunes it. This has the bleed the area right in front of the Osiris shaft located down here. You take, goes straight over here is the area that if you look at it, it is situated so it points towards this corner of the other structure. I don't have to make that up. You can look at it on Google Maps. Okay, it's there for a reason. We'll get into the communication later. But it is such that its roof is the echo of that. It's actually a tiny bit taller because it has the extra pressure over here to deal with. And if you notice when you go into it, you go down a little bit below what would be ground level, and then it goes in, and the entrance from the conduit from the other side that you don't go because you go down. But it is still, this is the well head is designed so the gas comes in and bubbles into the room and maintains a pressure, and that pressure what is maintaining this. When if this gets just a little bit too high, the gas bubbles into here and bubbles, it bubbles into here, and then this again fine tunes it to where it's too much, it bubbles out a little bit. But that maintains that pressure that this room is at. This is a super finely built structure that everything complements everything. This is my system, okay? So I'm building this on the wellhead. The water is still the water. This is still to ground. And you remember how I said things cut off and don't cut off? Just before this room, when you look at it, there's another room right before it. That's actually what that is doing, because we're dealing with multiple gases. But again, in my model, I'm really only going to be working with hydrogen and oxygen and or just an air compressor. So I'm just going to be dealing with ambient air. But as the surface of the liquids involved go up and down, at some point it actually breaks the liquid conduit between the structure here and the area they like to call the Osiris shaft, the nature's ground. And when it does that, the nature's energy still wants a direction to go. So that's why I say there are switches within the system. It is designed extraordinarily well. This area over here has to be fed a gas from somewhere. So I'm assuming, and this is where I have to assume this, somewhere within this third structure we're going to find an area where it's exposed to Earth. And at that point it is going to vent. The only gas I can assume this one is going to vent is going to be oxygen. And it will fill. If you look at the way the most highest room is built, this conduit goes down below that, and the room as it feeds the next room is designed where it comes into the room and then opens up. Like that. So if we put a gas filling the top area here, it would force any liquids in here to come down to join that because of the surface tension, hydraulics. You create a pressure here, it's going to create a pressure on the surface tension there, which will bring it down. So this will maintain the liquids within the structure lower than they would be naturally outside because you're adding pressure to it, which will create, and the weight of the water will hold it down based on the other water. Okay, this is just what physics 101 or whatever. You can't suck too much, especially when you have a pool of water. The weight of it will pull it down, which will create this, like I said, in a negative pressure environment. The reason why the conduit that comes from the east side into it, that's on the east side like 20% of the way back, in the other finished area that has that roof line, that roof line is where they can't, that's the 0 point that they have to have the waters outside sit at, because if they put too much water, it would raise the surface level, which would allow the suction in here to just start letting that water spill over. And if they lower it too much, it would allow it wouldn't matter too much because they got so much gas in there. liquid in there, it would have to still suck it up. But that shows you the pressures. I'm getting into the communications. Skip it, okay? Just assume that's a water line. That's a visual water line, and it's done that way just intentionally. Where am I going else? In here, to maintain the pressures within this structure, what gases to let bubble out of here, because there seems to be a not necessary gas, and or a gas will build up that is a byproduct. This section here actually works with the Y section, where they have the opening that today has the gate that you can't go past. That one will work with where the plug comes down to allow a gas to seep down to the point where it can bubble out, but won't, and this works throughout the entire, this is how it's so awesome that what is occurring over here, the pressures there play with here, the pressures within the gases are working together to allow a byproduct gas to escape out of the system, but maintain the pressure within the system. This is, if you can't see the marvel of the engineering that was put into my creation, because I'm not talking about the Great Giza Pyramids. Remember, this is my creation, because the Great Giza Pyramids are a bunch of tombs, you know what I mean? That if you can't comprehend how they are harvesting heavy water and a gas that is skimmed off. Did I get into that in this video? I forget where I'm at. The way here that they're working, breaking it into oxygen and hydrogen brought up to the top, venting off any byproduct gas because it comes into here, have the opening. The liquid is allowed, the byproduct liquid, which would be light water, is allowed to escape up and out of the system. There's a hole when you look at it, down product, and then they have what I like to refer to as a snorkel. There's a snorkel here, there's a snorkel there, and there's a snorkel here. And technically, the area right above the area there is a snorkel because it deals with the ambient outside world. And the other snorkel for the entire system, the chi for the entire system, is the area where you see the square and the circle that is located just a little bit south of there, and that is located up on like a little anthill looking thing. That's because that would have been within the pool. That would have been just like maybe a few inches above. The square would probably be right at water level, and the circle was probably like an inch or two above water level. And I wouldn't be surprised, they're not going to be at the same elevation, but they correlate to each other because that's on par with this elevation, the inside the system. But actually, the way it could be on par with the openings I spoke of here, but I think it's at too low of an elevation. But it's the antithesis to it after all the conversions of the pressure, if you get what I mean. Within the system is the conversion of it put at ground level, and any light water that gets trapped in here will spill out there. But the heavy water is trapped because of its weight. The light water will escape out of it, and because the whole system is kind of flowing the way it's created, the gas pressures that go up and around, I did mention that, right? It is created so that there's a little channel. If you look at the videos, you can go to pressure.giza, greatgizapyramid.com. You look at that video, there's a conduit, a canal, that runs across the floor line, just like a little 2-3 inches, which will allow for a constant flow. The system has a constant small trickle flow. It is not a raging flow. Waters aren't going crazy in it. What is going crazy is the pressures in some areas. It's going crazy. When it comes down here and does its water hammer thing, it's going crazy. Up here it's burning, spurts coming out there. When we get into how they're exactly what's occurring, there's a bunch of activity going on, but the movement of all the elements within it are pretty much a pool that is just playing at a very fine pressure point. It is a very well orchestrated machine. Glad I thought of it. Too bad that the things over in Egypt are nothing but tombs. Nothing but tombs. Nothing but tombs. Nothing to see here. Nothing but tombs.